Over the past couple months, it's no secret that home sales are down massively here in Utah. In November, it's looking even worse. The only problem is that prices are not dropping in accordance with that. Utah is in big trouble, so let's talk about it. What's up, you guys? It's Cody, your favorite Salt Lake City realtor. In this video, we're talking about exactly what you need to know when it comes to the housing market here in November. I think we're going to see some really interesting changes over the next couple months, but I wanted to provide this quick update along the way so we can talk a little bit about what's happening out there in the market. Okay, that being said, let's jump into this and take a look at my computer screen here. If you look at this column right here, this is the number of home sales that we've had for the month of November so far, right? So we're sitting at 842. Now I'm going to pull up the calculator here because this is something I actually want to show people, you know, how dire this situation really is with the number of home sales that are happening. Now, obviously this is affecting me. My business has slowed down, but there's still a lot of people like yourself who are reaching out to me saying, hey, Cody, I might not be buying right now, but I'm going to be buying in, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months when the opportunities really start to hit. If you're in that situation and you're thinking about making that move here, reach out to me, call, text, or email anytime. I love hearing from you guys, and I cannot wait to hear how I can help you with your real estate goals. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, reach out to me. All right, back to the video here. So we're sitting here on November 18th. We've had 842 home sales for the month of November. Now, I'm actually going to take the month of November, right? We're going to have roughly 30 days in this month. And right here at November 18th, that means we're basically 2/3 of the way through the month. We are going to lose a couple days for Thanksgiving, the Thanksgiving holiday. So that's actually going to bring it down just slightly, which is going to hurt sales even further. So we have 30 days in the month of November. But if we take this and we do 842 divided by 18 days, this gives us a rough number of sales per day, right? There's roughly 46, 47 sales happening on average if we just take a round number, right? But then let's actually add this up and let's say, okay, we're going to times this by, let's say 28, right? Because you're going to lose a day for Thanksgiving, you're going to lose one for Black Friday, then you go right into the weekend. There's not really anything happening, right? This actually brings our estimated total sales for the month at about 1,300. I think we'll probably be a little bit higher than that because there's a lot of people who choose to close at the very end of the month just for tax purposes or for payment purposes. So I do think this number will be slightly higher than that, probably somewhere in that 1,350, maybe 1,400 range. But this still doesn't look great, guys. If we go back and look at October of 2022, just last month, we had basically 2,600 sales. If we compare that to the roughly, let's say 1,400 sales that we're going to have this month, that means that sales are down 40% year over year. That means that sales are down 40% month over month. If we look from past month to this month, we're sitting down 40%. Now, this is actually really concerning for the real estate market, especially because we're going to talk about prices here in just a second. If we come back here and take a look real quick at what's happened in past Novembers, of course, things always slow down going into the winter months. You've got the holidays, it's getting cold, the kids are in school, whatever, so there's going to be less people who are wanting to move during that time of year. But if we go back and look at November of last year, we had 4,236 sales, which is about triple what we're going to have this year. If we go back even further, November of 2020, it was a little bit higher, 4,500 sales. If we go back here to November of 2019, we had 3,690 sales. So even before the housing market went crazy, we would expect to see somewhere between 3,500 and 4,000 sales during these winter months. So to be sitting here at 842 for the month and to be estimating that we're only going to finish out the month at roughly 1,300, 1,400 sales, yeah, it's an interesting situation. So let's talk about prices now. This is something I wanted to cover for a while now, and I've actually just kind of been sitting on this, watching the data, figuring out, watching to see what happens with it really. If we look at this column right here, if you've watched my channel before, you'll know what these columns mean. This is the median original listing price. So the listing price on a median basis actually went up just slightly. Now this could be because of some higher end homes that are getting listed at this time of year, but for whatever reason, it did just tick up just a hair. We were at 519 for 3 months in a row. We did drop down to 515 on listing prices, but then here in November, it's actually been a little bit higher. Now, the interesting thing about this is that the sales price has actually remained flat. Back here in August, we were at 500,000, but September, October, and here in the month of November, that median sales price that we're seeing is sitting flat at $490,000. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not opportunity out there. It just means that sellers are not dropping their price as much as a lot of people wish they would or had hoped they would, and they're still commanding, these higher prices. I think there's a few reasons for that. We're going to talk about it here in just a second, but let's wrap up talking about these prices. The other thing that you have to look at when it comes to these prices is what is the actual sales price to that listing price, because that really gives you a good indication of how much people are negotiating off the price of the home. If a home is listed at $525,000 but is selling for roughly $490,000, that actually accounts for a 7% reduction off of the price that was negotiated by the buyer's agent, right, or by the buyer. So this is actually pretty interesting to see that this has dropped down slightly, but I think it's mostly because of this anomaly that there was potentially a couple homes that were listed at higher price points, which drove that median basis up. We're also sitting here at 37 days on market. Just a quick mention there. The other thing that's worth mentioning here is that the inventory levels have not really changed. Over the past couple months, I've been tracking this information, and we've been hovering just under 10,000 active listings here in the market. That also includes a number of homes that are now under contract that is actually lower than what we saw in the last couple of months. If we go back to August or September, or even just earlier this year, we saw roughly 6,000 to 7,000 homes that were under contract. Right now, we're sitting at just under 5,000 homes under contract. So if you take a look at the number of homes that are on the market as well as what's under contract but hasn't sold yet, you're sitting at about 15,000 total homes. This is compared to the roughly 16,500 to 17,500 that we were seeing just a couple months ago. So inventory levels have actually decreased, which means that people are not listing their homes for sale. They've pulled them off the market and they're deciding to wait. As long as these inventory levels stay low, we're not going to see a huge rush of sellers to the market, which would then drive prices down. We are still seeing some homes sit on the market and there is competition out there, but overall inventory levels are extremely low. I've got a couple buyers who are waiting to buy in these very specific areas and price points, but we haven't seen any listings come up in the past couple of months. It's absolutely crazy. All of this being said, guys, this is pretty interesting information to see, and I think it actually points to a couple of indicators, right? The things that I'm thinking about, okay, why is this, why are we in this scenario? It's because the Fed has put in place, these different interest rate increases through raising the Fed funds rate by 0.75% for I think the last 3, maybe even 4 times they've met. So when it comes to those interest rate increases, they've actually said and done studies that say it can take up to 6 months for that increased interest rate to fully affect the market. So right now, what we're seeing is the start of that effect here in the market. They started raising rates earlier this summer. I think it was maybe like early summer that they started raising rates, actually even maybe early spring that they started raising, but they got really serious about it over the summer and over the fall. So we're starting to see the impact of that. Interest rates have climbed and climbed and climbed, and now we're starting to see the market really slow down and start to get impacted by that. The thing is, prices are not necessarily coming down because of that. It's just simply there's less sales happening. This is the most important thing you need to look at. And I think projecting forward, saying, okay, what's going to happen going into the next, month, the next 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months? What is this going to look like? I think there's actually going to be a chance that prices, very slowly drop because sellers are just really resilient. There's a lot of homeowners out there who have a ton of equity in their home. They don't have anywhere to move, right? Because if they sell their home and buy something else, it's going to be a significantly higher interest rate. So unless they're paying cash, that doesn't really make sense, right? Why would they give up on their home that they already live in, love? Maybe it's a little small or whatever, but why would they give that up to go move into another home that has a interest rate that's double what they've been paying? And, they're going to be paying $1,000, maybe $1,500 more per month for that home. A lot of people are not going to make that trade-off. So I think there's a lot of homeowners who are not selling. I think there's also a lot of homeowners who are just sitting on this equity saying, hey, I'm not going to give this up. My home's gone up in value. Now I've seen that it could be worth $800,000 or $1.2 million or $2 million, right? I'm not going to give it up for anything less than that. I think there's a lot of homeowners who are resilient. And the reason why I think that's actually the case is because of this right here. So this is the unemployment rate here in Utah. During the last Great Recession, we got as low as about 2.4 during the times when they were really good, just before the Great Recession. We were here at 2.4, 2.5, and then it started to climb going into 2008, 2009. We actually got up here to a peak of about 8% in 2010. It dropped off sharply going into 2012. And then it has continually declined over the past couple of years, right? From about 2012 to 2018. Now, if we actually take a look at this, March 2020, we all know what happened then. We jumped up to 10%, which is pretty crazy to see how quickly that changed in just 1 month. That many people get laid off, but then it started to slowly come down as, we went through the whole lockdown. Everybody knows what happened with that, right? But let's take a look at this data here. So in April of 2022, just about 7 months ago, we actually got as low as 1.9% unemployment. That is incredibly low. So we're starting to see this slowly climb up, but we were at 1.9 in April and we're sitting at 2.1 as of October. The unemployment rate here in Utah is still incredibly low, and that is the main reason why we haven't seen home prices drop. People still have their jobs. They're still making payments on their homes. They're not facing foreclosure. They're not in a position where they have to move. Everybody's kind of just sitting tight, right? We're still seeing people buy homes. I've had a ton of people buying homes recently, but it's for different reasons, right? It's because they're moving into the area. They still need to find something, and it still makes sense for them and their family. We still have people selling homes, right? We still have people trying to move out of the area or, downgrade to a different home or maybe just trade across, right? There's still people who are trying to sell and buy real estate here in this market. But this is something that I think is really interesting. Unless this number goes up drastically, unless we see this approach 3%, 4%, 5%, I don't think that we're going to see any massive changes in prices. I don't think we're going to see any massive fall offs. I do think prices will come down, probably another 5 to 10% is what I've been thinking over the next, let's say 3 to 6 months. But I don't think we're going to see a massive, 10, 15, 20% drop in the next couple of months unless unemployment really goes through the roof. We are starting to see people get laid off. So I do expect this number to climb. I wouldn't be surprised if we're like 2.3, 2.4 when the November data comes out, but that's something that we'll just have to wait and see. So let's actually jump over here and take a look at some of this other information that we have here from the St. Louis Fed. So this is kind of like, this is research that I'm pulling from an official source, right? These guys are pulling direct data from the economy, right? So I think this is a pretty good source. Of course, nothing's perfect. I'm sure there might be some discrepancies here that maybe are not great, but I think this is about as good of information as we can get. So this is the housing inventory, which is median days on market here in Salt Lake. Now, I think this is pretty interesting because this is actually saying for September and October, we're at 45 to 47. Which varies slightly based on what I'm seeing over here. I'm actually seeing a little bit lower right here, but that could be because this is actually covering all areas, right? It's not just Salt Lake City. So anyways, it's not important. The point I want to point out here is that back here in 2021, it was extremely low as we've ever seen it. Back here, if we come back, let's just look at like a 10-year chart. Oh, well, let me look at a 10-year chart. Okay, that's fine. So we were extremely low back here in 2021. We were pretty high back here in 2020, 2019. But if you look at these peaks and valleys, the days on market always increases through the winter, which is pretty typical, and it decreases in the spring, the summer, and some of the fall months as well. So usually we get down to about 30 during the summer. Here in 2021 and even early 2022, it was still incredibly low. If we come back here to end of 2019, let's just say October 2019, we were sitting at 40, and as of right now, we're sitting at 47. So days on market are climbing, and we do expect them to actually exceed the numbers that we're seeing here in January of each year when it's at its peak. So pretty interesting. That always happens in January. I think that's because of the holidays. People just don't want to move during that time of year. Let's take a look at this new private housing units authorized by building permits for Utah. So we're still seeing building permits being issued. We're still seeing a lot of these go through. In fact, we're still seeing more than we saw prior to the pandemic. If we take a look at this, you can see that it kind of fluctuates here from about 1,500 as a low in these winter months again to about 2,400 in the summer. And then you can see it jumps up here in 2019, was a little bit high, went crazy through the last couple of years, but we're still sitting at about 2,100 and 2,200 for the last couple of months that we have data here. So still seeing private homes being started, which is good information for the market overall. The other thing I just want to point out real quick here is that the homeownership rate in Utah has actually dropped off significantly. I think this is because there's a lot of people who have moved to the area who are now renting, right? So you have a lot of people who now live in the area, they're not owning a home or they don't own a home here in Utah currently. And so we've seen that number fall off pretty substantially, at least for the purpose of this data here. We were at 71.7 and now at 68.8, but that's still higher than what we see nationwide. I think nationwide, it kind of fluctuates at like around that 65% mark. So really interesting information that we're seeing here, guys. I hope this video was helpful for you to kind of give you an outlook on the market. If you're thinking about making a move here or you already live here and you want to buy or sell real estate, I want to be your trusted real estate resource. I hope you'd reach out to me so we can have a chat about the type of home and lifestyle you're looking looking for, or if you're looking to sell a home, how we can help you meet those real estate goals. With that being said, my information's here on the screen. You can also find it in the description box below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, maybe share it with a friend or a family member who's interested in Salt Lake City real estate. It'd really mean a lot to me. And with that being said, guys, we'll catch you in the next one.